Ben, welcome to the first episode of House of Sunday. And I couldn't think of a better guest to bring on the show. A long time friend. Welcome, my man.
I'm honored to be the first guest on your show. I love the name, Kurt, House of Sunday. You have to explain to me what that means.
Yeah, the brand is Sunday Gentleman. So the House of Sunday is like the body of the man. The house is the body. So it's like what is in the body of the man. And so it's the house we're building here at Sunday Gentleman is the house of this man.
I love it. All right, let's
Yeah.
build that beautiful house.
Yeah. So, brother, give the audience a little bit of background of who is Ben.
Well, I mean, who I am is somebody who shows up and I'm very consistent in my life, but that's not who I was for a very long time. I was
Yeah.
somebody who was a mess. You know my backstory, but I'm somebody who was very unhealthy physically, emotionally. You talk about this house that our soul lives in. My house was very poor for 23 years. I struggled with physical obesity, mental obesity, depression, addiction, a ton of symptoms in my early 20s: erectile dysfunction, high blood glucose, of course, extra weight, high blood pressure. And like so many people, I explored the conventional advice of how do I feel better. So I've made appointments with my doctors, and there was never a discussion about lifestyle, about my thoughts, about my mentality, about what I'm eating, what I'm thinking. It was always about a recommendation for a medication, a prescription. And it was frustrating to me because I knew there was something else happening at a cell level. There was a root cause approach, root cause reason to why I had these symptoms.
Hmm.
So I kind of took this into my own hands and detached from conventional advice, my doctor's advice. And it really, for me, my transformation and my shift started not with health and nutrition or even fitness. It started with mindset. I started studying a lot of the people you've studied, of course, Dr. John Demartini, Bob Proctor, Jim
Hmm.
Rohn, Zig Ziglar. And it really, these thought leaders helped me understand that I am the person responsible. I am the reason why I don't feel good. I'm the reason why I have symptoms. And if I could make these small little behavior changes every day and start gaining momentum and compounding those decisions, I could turn things in the right direction. And that's exactly what I did. I went through this incredible transformation where I lost 80 pounds in 9 months. I went from being obese at 34% body fat to my lowest at that time was 6% body fat. And it really just transformed my whole physical appearance, my mentality. The depression went away, the
Hmm.
symptoms went away. It was about 18 years ago, and that's what got me into this health space that I'm now in. That's who I am now. In this metabolic health space.
Yeah, because where you've taken your life from there to there is, I mean, it's like multiple different human beings. So, what was going on at the time? What was that darkness happening within your world of when you were obese, when you had ED, and, when you were searching the internet for ways to off yourself?
I was, yeah, that's part of the story. I was actually doing that. That's a true story. I was looking on the internet for ways to kill myself, and I didn't go through with it only because the only reason why is because I kept thinking about my mom and I kept thinking about the devastation she would have to deal with if I took my life, and I didn't want to cause that pain. So for me, I believe the biggest reason why I was in such a dark place was because I lacked purpose and goals in my life. I didn't have any values. And we know how important it is to have values and to live on purpose with the purpose.
Yeah.
That was not my life. So it was filling that hole with things that would just give me a dopamine hit, things that would numb me. So video games, drugs, bad relationships, so on and so forth. I remember reading a quote from a science fiction writer from the late 1970s. His name is Robert Heinlein. When I read this quote, and I'll share the quote in a second, but when I read the
Hmm.
quote, it just hit me like a ton of bricks because I was like, this is my life. This is exactly why I'm struggling. And here's the quote. Then the guy was his name is Robert Heinlein, and he said, in the absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it.
Hmm.
And I let that quote kind of sink in. And the daily trivia for me was all the addictions, the bad behaviors, treating my body really poorly. And once I got clear on my highest values, once I started setting goals, I didn't have time for daily trivia. The addictions that I had and all the energy and bandwidth that I put into my addictions, which we do put a lot of energy into our addictions, I
Hmm.
now turn that energy into somewhat of a superpower where I utilized it for study. I utilized it for doing good things. I utilized it as a superpower to actually get into this health space and do really good in this health space. So it was a transference of energy that really changed my life.
Amazing. Yeah, I like that quote. Take us on the journey of Ben from the couch to, we met at, what was it, Live Free CrossFit on Biscayne Boulevard back in 2014 in Miami. So take us on that journey from you go from the couch to now being a CrossFit gym owner.
Yeah, it was quite the journey, right? It started with some small steps, what I call one tweak a week sort of mentality, and I started gaining momentum. I went through this transformation, as I mentioned, and then I was fit, I was lean, and I wanted to share the message with other people. So first, I was doing personal training for many, many years here in Miami, where I was a traveling personal trainer. I would travel to clients and train them at their apartment gym, at a park, wherever I could do it.
Hmm.
Morningside Park, Crestview Park in Miami Beach. I mean, any location I would train them at. And then eventually opened up a CrossFit gym in Miami, Live Free CrossFit, which is where we met. You were actively a member, and you did a lot of CrossFit back in those days.
Hmm.
And eventually it got to the point where in 2018, where I actually decided to sell my CrossFit shares because I had such a drive and a mission and a passion to deliver this message, not just to my community at the gym, but to the world. And I
Hmm.
felt like I was trading time for money. I was having to go to the gym to reach this certain amount of people. But if I could take this message online, I could reach more people. So I decided to sell my shares and then go fully online with social media, YouTube, podcasts, started writing books. And that's where my reach really started to accelerate and compound year after year. This year alone has been the best year in terms of the reach I've been able to make and the people I've been able to impact. And I feel like I'm just getting started as well. So it was quite the journey. It started 18 years ago, but
Hmm.
year after year, it just feels like it's getting better and better.
Tell me on the, going from the identity of I'm a dude on a couch playing video games, smoking pot to, now I own a CrossFit gym, but take us from the identity of what was it like to rebrand that identity and step into, I'm going to sell these shares. I'm following this call inside me and I'm not a content creator yet, but this is what I want to be. What were the, what was going on inside of you as you're going through this shift internally and stepping into that?
A lot. Doubts, fear, what Bob Proctor calls the terror barrier, when you start to think about things you want to do and set goals and it scares you and excites you at the same time. So
Hmm.
I lacked a lot of belief in myself for quite some time, but I leaned into mentors, I leaned into books, I leaned into like quality podcasts, and just hearing other people's stories really inspired me to keep going. I remember, Curtis, you don't know this story because I don't tell it often, but in 2015, this is when I had the CrossFit gym. This is when we knew each
Hmm.
other. At this time, I started doing some small presentations, like in person, like lectures. So I was doing them at the gym. 15, 20 people would show up and talk about fasting, talk about ketosis back when it wasn't in vogue. But then I also reached out to like WeWork and Bureau, which are these offices that you could rent and work out of Miami, out of the US, and nutrition stores called Nutrition Smart, like grocery stores. And I would just reach out to them proactively and say, I want to, deliver a lecture to your community. And I would speak in front of 5 people, 10 people. And I just kept getting my feet wet. And every time it was scary to me, even though it was 5 people or 10 people. I remember in 2015, this Nutrition Smart grocery store here in Miami, they said they agreed for me to come in and do this like 60-minute kind of health workshop for their customers. So they created like flyers, they shared it on their storefront, and I show up 30 minutes early to the lecture to prepare my little banner that I had set up. And I'm like preparing myself to talk to whoever was going to show up. I was thinking there might be like 20, 30 people there. And 6 o'clock comes around, which is the time of the
Hmm.
lecture. There's about 20 seats there. There's not one person in the seats, not one person. I'm thinking, okay, rush hour, Miami. People are always late in Miami. Let me let me just wait. So I waited 10 minutes. Nobody showed up. 20 minutes. Nobody showed up. I waited a full hour and not one person showed up to the talk. And I remember getting into my car, driving home, and I cried. I was so
Yeah.
frustrated. I was, angry. I was sad. I knew I could deliver a powerful message to whoever showed up, and not one person showed up. And it would have been easy for me to tell myself, "Well, this is just not for you. Like this is just not your thing. You should probably just give up and do something else." But
Hmm.
I didn't do that. I looked at it as a test of my perseverance and my commitment to the message. And I said, all right, God, I believe you're testing me here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to set up another lecture with Nutrition Smart. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to quit. And, we did it again. There was 5 people that showed up. And then eventually, it snowballed into me now being a keynote speaker. But I believe that was a test. And a lot of people go through that test. And unfortunately, a lot of people give up
Yeah.
because they don't see the results right away. But that wasn't my mentality.
That's a great point there, because you feel like it's like you feel called to this path, and then it's like these doors, this resistance, as Stephen Pressfield calls it, that, that resistance comes up, and it's like, wait, it's like, is this calling me to this path, or is it telling me to get off my path? And what, for you, what has been that key, I guess, internal marker for you, that internal connection you have to continue to just go deeper into it?
Yeah, as long as I love what I'm doing, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people look at work as something that they should be compensated for. And while I believe, yes, we should be financially free and independent and well compensated, I think that's a side effect of doing the things you love to do that lights you up.
Mhm.
Work is meant for us, meaning like it's meant for our enjoyment, our passion, our purpose. The side effect is the income. But
Mhm.
as long as I love what I'm doing and I love to lecture, I love to create content, I'll continue to do it, and I'll show up in front of 5 people that show up for my lecture the same way as if there were 5,000 people there. And I think if you don't have that mentality, if you kind of don't give it all you got because there's not enough people there, you don't deserve to win.
Mhm.
So for me, as long as I love what I'm doing, I'm going to keep doing it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you've wrote 2 books, and so I'm curious on the journey of, because you're not someone who, from what I'm aware of, you didn't go to college to study health. You
That's
don't have
correct.
a proper degree, you're not like a doctor, but yet you have, over 1 million followers through all your networks, you're going to Saudi Arabia, you're speaking on massive stages. And so many people fight, as you know, the imposter syndrome of, well, who am I to do this, right? And so for you in that health space to step into these, continue to have to reinvent yourself. And what was it like going to, now I'm going to write this book on health, and here I was, this guy 10 years ago who's on the couch fucking eating popcorn and playing video games.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a doctor, and I dropped out of college because I was too afraid to actually do my speech class and talk in front of my classmates for 10 minutes, ironically, right? Now
Right.
that's my career. For me, I think my authority comes more than any credentials. It comes from my own experience, right? I'm
Yeah.
somebody who was unhealthy. I dealt with a lot of the symptoms, metabolic syndrome, what people are dealing with. So I was able to personally overcome that and thrive. I feel the healthiest I've ever felt at 41. I feel
Mhm.
healthier at 41 than 21. And then I applied what I learned for myself to tens of thousands of people, and they got results. So it's the experience that I went through. It's the experience that I applied it with people. And the books are definitely a great thing as an authority piece. It's a great way to get the message out to more people. It was a struggle to write the first book because my grammar wasn't great. I didn't go to school for any of this. It was pretty much me just learning on my own.
Mhm.
Now you have ChatGPT that could write things for you, but back then I didn't have that. So, anyways, it was all about just kind of trial and error, experimenting. Consistency really is the name of the game. You just keep showing up and you just keep getting better. The more you practice, the more you put in the reps. And whatever you're doing, the more you put in the reps, the better you're going to get.
Mhm.
I believe it's the frequency that brings out the genius that's within us.
Beautiful. During that time, did you have, and I know you're a massive Bob Proctor fan, were you working with specific people? Were you just like dialed it? Like, what was your Ben Azadi, like, I'm nourishing Ben through my mind, through my body? What were your steps along the way of stepping into that, writing that book during that time?
I definitely would study every day, reading or listening to an audiobook or a good podcast. Bob Proctor has been the number one person that I would study, and still to this day, I study him every single day, every single morning. And every time I listen to him, it just creates a new level of understanding of myself, a new level of understanding about my paradigms. And you mentioned the imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
That's still there for me. As I grow and expand, I still have that imposter syndrome. I think it'll always be there as long as I continue to grow and expand.
Yeah.
But now I'm aware of it. I know that it's just my paradigm trying to keep me safe and protect me. And it's like a governor that we have in our subconscious mind. And I literally talk to it like get the hell out of here. Like you're not serving me. Like I'm not going to listen to you. Like, just get out of my way. I'm not going to pay attention to you anymore because I know you're just trying to keep me safe and protected. But yeah, study has been huge for me. I study like you. You're a huge.
Yeah.
You study a lot, and I've learned a lot from you, Curtis. But the more I study, the more my level of awareness increases. And I learned a lesson. I used to read so many different books. I used to read so many different authors, and a lot of these different authors had conflicting information. And I found that I would not make a decision because this author said to do it this way, and this other author said to do it another way, and it would confuse me. So I no longer do that. I no longer read several different authors. I actually read the same book or listen to the same book over and over and over and over and over again. Like there's one book that I've been listening to on Audible. It's called the Bob Proctor Ultimate Library Collection. I just restarted it this morning for the 60th time in a row, 60.
Wow.
It's on like an 11-hour audio, and I just listen to it. It's over, and then I replay it again. I listen, so I'm on my 6th listen, and it's just the repetition has changed my life.
Curious, any book that someone I don't know anyone who's read a book 60 times. Personally, I would love to hear from from, reading it the first time, listening the first time to now going into the 60th time. What have what's been like, give us a few, I'm sure there's been many, many shifts, but just give us a few takeaways here. Like what's transformed for you?
The biggest thing is understanding my self-image. That's deep in our paradigm, and the self-image is the way that we view ourselves, not
Hmm.
consciously but subconsciously. And for what I've discovered is that we cannot outperform our self image. So we can make a conscious decision to change. And I'll use the example in the weight loss space of somebody
Hmm.
who's overweight and they make a conscious decision, usually in January, I want to lose 50 pounds this year.
Right.
So that they make that conscious decision and they go into action. They cut their calories, they do fasting, whatever it is. But something happens a few weeks or sometimes a few months in where the weight they've lost is now being found again. They're starting to do things where you could call it sabotaging themselves. You could use a different word for it, but they're going back to their old behaviors because they never worked on rewiring the self image. Their self image still identified as an overweight person. So their paradigm, being this
Hmm.
psychonetic instrument, will course correct to match the self image. So for me, that's been the biggest thing. I need to continuously work on the self image. And I do that with repetition by
Yeah.
listening to the book over and
Okay.
over, by literally writing on an index card. I have 4 of them here, this self image, and reading it every day and imprinting it into my subconscious mind. That's how I've been able to change my self image.
Wow. I think that's great because so much of, if you were the man who didn't get attention when you were younger and now you have this self-image, right, as Bob Proctor's calling it, of now I'm out in the world unconsciously trying to get attention, but I don't even know why. I just need it to survive. I need it to feel confident. When it's not there, it's like the self-image is now just a shattered mirror because it's not on the inside, right? It's coming from the outside. For you, if you don't mind sharing here, what's been kind of like your kryptonite self-image that this book has really helped you through?
I still deal with it, and I compare myself to other people in my space. I look at
Mhm.
their reach. I look at people that are doing great things, and my first initial reaction is some jealousy.
Mm,
And I'm getting better at that, where I'll respond instead of react, and I'll change my jealousy to permission, meaning if they can do something like that, it gives me
right.
permission to do something like that too. But that's something that I still deal with. I'm getting better at it. But my initial reaction is to feel some jealousy. Like, how come I'm not speaking in front of 30,000 people like this person? Or how come I don't have 5 million on YouTube? So, yeah, actively working on that. It's getting better over time, but it still comes in from time to time.
Yeah, I think that's incredible, and thank you for sharing that. I think that's powerful to hear for people because of the scales of creators, right? And, this world we're living in, more and more stepping into it. And so just hearing for someone on your level across your channels of you have a massive reach and that self-image is still there, but what I'm hearing is you're tending to that image and you're really taking care of it and just giving yourself permission to kind of be where you're at, but also, hey, I'm striving for way beyond what I could see at this moment as well.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's really interesting, Curtis, because years ago, I actually viewed the jealousy, I viewed it as like a chip on the shoulder that gave me juice to like
Mhm.
show up and like I'll show them like they have a
Yeah.
bigger following. Like, so there was like a competitive edge, but it's such a scarcity mindset to have that. Like if you need a chip on your shoulder or jealousy to give you juice, and that was
Mhm,
me for many years, it's just a scarcity mindset. It's not an abundant mindset. So now I'm
mhm.
practicing more of an abundance mindset.
I like that. What were some of the with that prior mindset you just described, what were some of the, like, blocks that you, like, if you look back and you notice now, you're like, "Oh, wow," like, I could really see because I was behaving and thinking that way, that these were just not coming I was just blocked.
I think it goes back to my childhood. Probably does. It usually does, right? When I was a kid, I was not the popular kid. I was
Yeah.
somebody who was picked on. I was always seeking love and attention, but I didn't get that, right? So when I see somebody getting more love and attention than me
Uh-huh.
on their socials, that part of me when I was a kid is I kind of feel the same way. Like, okay, maybe I'm not popular in this space. Maybe whatever's thinking thought, right? So yeah, it stems back to many years as a kid where I was not getting any attention.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? Of, like, in the scale you're going at, what would you say for someone now of, starting their journey out, or maybe they're just at a smaller scale of a creator and, they have this split identity. It's like, well, I have this one life here, but I wanna live this life. How do I get from A to at least B for now and change my identity?
That's a really important question. The first thing is what you just said. You need to know where you are and where you're going. But most people don't
Mhm.
even know that. So
Right.
do an audit. Where are you and where do you want to be?
Yeah.
And as long as you're closing the gap between where you are and where you want to be, you're a successful person. That was Earl Nightingale's definition of success. He said success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Okay, a
Mm.
worthy ideal is a goal that you
Mhm.
have fallen in love with. So success is the progressive realization of that, meaning this is where you are. This is where you want to be. It might be a 30-year goal, it may be even like a 50-year goal or a 10-year goal, but as long as you're closing the gap every day, every week, you are a successful person. Where we fall into the trap is where we start comparing our journey and our progress, or I'll speak for myself. Where I fall into the trap is when I compare my journey and my progress to somebody else's. That's when I fall into a gap. Correct myself. I
Uh-huh.
focus on the gain where I was a month ago, a week ago, a year ago versus where I am now. And as long as I'm focusing on my progress and I see my gap is closing, then I feel like a successful person.
Yeah, I think that's huge there, and it's a lot easier said than done, especially in today's age. I can't imagine being a teenager in today's age with social media and be like, you didn't get invited to the party and, like, you're seeing this, like, it's tough out there. It's hard.
Yeah.
And I wanna tap into something you just said on this, A to B, the gap and the gain, and tie in the health component to this because I think coming from you, it's gonna be powerful. So someone is in the midst of they're in their dark nights, right? A man is in their dark night, maybe a woman, and let's tie in the health component, right? So they're in the shit, man. Like, what are ways we could now tie in the nutrition, the health to help give the body and the mind the greatest potential, the greatest source of power to continue to move forward.
First thing is to set goals, right? When you
Okay.
have goals, you're going to want to treat your body better because you're going to want
Mhm.
to have energy to accomplish those goals. So that's the first step. Outside of that, when we're thinking about what can you do lifestyle wise, there's so many things I could throw at you here, but the first thing that comes to mind and what I believe is the most powerful way to change your health is fasting. Adopting some form of fasting. Fasting is the most efficient way to harness this innate intelligence within ourselves. When we stop eating food for 16 hours a day,
Mhm.
or if you do longer fasts, I know you've done some longer fasts, me too. You harness this innate intelligence because when you're constantly eating and grazing throughout the day, which most
Mhm.
people do,
Yeah.
takes a lot of energy and bandwidth to digest food. So when you don't eat, and you fast, you have a process called energy diversion where you divert energy away from what would have been used for digestion and now it's being diverted towards healing. Your brain produces something called brain derived neurotropic factor, which is like miracle growth for the brain. So you're more creative and focused. You lower inflammation, you lower insulin, you start burning fat, all with fasting. So
Mhm.
that would be my first recommendation. Like get into some sort of fasting routine, some sort of fasting rhythm, and watch what it does for your energy, your focus, and for your health.
For how long?
If we're
Would you?
thinking about a daily intermittent fasting schedule, you
Yeah.
could start by doing a 16-8, right? 16 hours you're fasted,
Hmm.
8 hours you have an eating window. That's really doable for most people. You have 8 hours to eat your 3 meals. And then outside of that, you're fasted. You're just having water, coffee, tea, but no food. And
Okay.
then as you get more advanced, you could throw in like a 24-hour water fast once a week to really ramp up those benefits.
It's interesting because you read the Bible, they talk about fasting in the Bible. And then, I don't know if you're familiar with a vision quest, but you go on a vision quest as a man, you're going basically, you sit around a tree in a parameter and you're just, in some shorts. There's no food, there's no water, and you're there for 4 days waiting for this vision to come in. But they do it with the intent of because of the fasting.
I don't
So,
know about that, but I know every religion practices some form of fasting. It
yeah,
really, because it removes the interference. It just allows you to be present. For men, right? And for women, but so many of us struggle with our dopamine levels. So dopamine is that
yes.
feel good hormone and chemical that helps you feel good. And we have a big issue with dopamine resistance, similar to insulin resistance, where the receptor sites in the brain that attach to dopamine, they're burnt out because we're doom scrolling on social media. We're eating processed carbohydrates and junk. We have addictions to drugs and other things. And now
Hmm.
we need more of these dopamine hits to get the same effect. So, fasting, actually, a 48-hour fast has been shown to resensitize those D2 receptor sites in the brain. But you even get those benefits with a shorter fast. So, that's what it's doing for you. And it helps you experience more joy. It helps you be more present. You don't have to doom scroll or get those dopamine hits throughout the day because you're sensitizing those dopamine receptor sites now with fasting.
So powerful. I know you've done probably several fasts throughout the years, obviously, of someone who lives and breathes this. I love to hear what's something that's come to you in a fast that wouldn't have otherwise came to you.
I've done 5 days is my longest, the 5 day
Okay.
water fast, but I frequently do 24 hours pretty much every week.
Yeah.
When I did my first 5 day water fast back in 2018, it was quite the experience because around day three, I noticed some really cool things. I noticed that I was very, very introverted, meaning like I didn't want to talk, not even to my girlfriend, who's my fiance now, but my girlfriend at the time, Natasha, who you know.
Mhm.
She kept saying things like like, "Why aren't you talking to me?" I was just so like I had all these ideas. I felt like creative, and I was just in my thoughts, like present with myself. So
Mhm.
that was an interesting experience. It was kind of like a spiritual sort of
Yeah.
experience. I also noticed that I had a lot of lower back pain on day three, and it was this pulsating pain. And over the years, and we've spoken about this before, over the years, I used to have a lot of lower back pain. Going into the fast, I wasn't dealing with any back pain until day three. And I came to realize that the back pain was actually my body's way of healing that area. Because when you go through a long fast, your innate intelligence will send healing properties to old injuries. And for me, it was the lower back. So it
Wow.
was this autophagy healing that lower back area. By day four, it was gone, but I realized my body was healing. And sometimes you feel the pain during that healing. So that was super interesting.
That's really cool, man. Thank you for sharing that. Is
Yeah,
there
very
anything
cool.
like, so let's say I wanna jump on this weekend and do a 48 fast. Do I need to prep in any kind of way to jump into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're talking about you, Curtis, you're metabolically healthy, so you could probably go ahead and do that. But if somebody is dealing with extra weight and insulin resistance, I would not recommend that. Fasting is like a muscle that you want to build up over time, and you know this. You wouldn't be a couch potato and then sign up for a CrossFit workout and do a WOD for an hour. Like, yeah, you would hurt yourself. You'd be sore for
Yeah,
days.
you're gonna hurt.
Not good. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
So if you're a sugar burner eating every 2 to 3 hours and you go and do a 48-hour fast, that's going to feel awful. So I would recommend the 16 hours and then work your way to 24 hours. Then once you've done a couple of 24-hour fasts and you want to feel great during that 24-hour fast, then you should be ready to throw in a 48-hour fast.
Amazing. That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that. If we'll circle back to kind of your timeline here. So we go from the couch, we go to CrossFit, we go to content creator, we go to author, we go to now we are a speaker. When I was like Ben in Saudi Arabia, I was like, holy shit, this is like incredible, very cool. Do you find that you are, maybe every 6 months, every year having to reinvent where you thought you were going and then where it is of like who you are? I'm curious on that journey for you because you have gone from such a circular a couch to a global audience here.
Absolutely. Constant reinvention of myself. One of the things that I learned from Bob Proctor is this concept of goal setting, and he
Mm-hmm.
calls it ABC type goal setting. So I'll just unpack that real quick because it's
Yeah.
relevant to the answer here. An A type goal is a goal that you set that most people set if they set a goal. It's an A type goal. And an A type goal is a goal that you set, and it's something that you already know how to do. You've done it before. An example of that would be you're driving a 2020 Toyota Corolla and you set a goal to buy a 2025 Toyota Corolla. All right. All right. It doesn't mean don't get the 2025 Toyota Corolla. It doesn't, but it's not exciting. It's not going to stretch you. You've done it before. A B type goal is a goal that does stretch you a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
you could sit down, kind of write down the steps to achieve it. If this person pays you what he owes you, if this opportunity comes through, if this happens, you could hit this B type goal. It's a good goal to have. It stretches you, but it's not the one you want to look for. The C type goal is the goal I want everybody to set. And a C type goal is a goal that scares you and excites you at the same time. It's not logical. It's not rational. It's a goal that you have no idea how you're going to hit this goal, how you're going to achieve it, but you
Mm-hmm.
really, really want it. If you just let yourself sit down in a room quietly and let your mind dream, this is what manifests. You don't have to know how you're going to do it. As a matter of fact, the C type goal, you don't know how you're going to do it,
Yeah.
but you write it down and you set the goal. So
Okay.
for me, I do that every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I set these goals that are scary, that I have no idea how I'm going to hit it, but I reverse engineer them and I just start taking actionable steps toward it. And the goals are not for me getting things, they're for me growing. It's growing my personality, the people I need to reach, the people I need to help. So goals are for growing, not getting. So that's what I do every year to reinvent myself. I set these C type goals. I write it down on a card, like I
Mm-hmm.
have right here, and I write it down in the present tense with I'm so happy and grateful now that, and then I write the C type goal present tense as if it's done. And every morning I read it. Throughout the day I read it. I have it in my pocket. I always have it with me. And then I also take the actions as well. And then all of a sudden, God, the universe, these amazing opportunities show up. And eventually I end up hitting the C type goal. And this year alone, I hit two C type goals. And that's very uncommon for me to do because I've set C type goals for years and I usually hit one every like 5 years. But this year
Wow.
I actually hit two C type goals and I'm about to hit a third C type goal by December. And it scares me. It really does. But I always remind myself when I feel a little overwhelmed, because sometimes that happens, like, this is a game. It's a fun game. I signed up for this. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, I lose some money. Okay, this happens, but I'm not going to die. I'm not going to be out in the street. So I just keep reminding myself, like, I signed up for this. It's a game. Let's reverse engineer and just keep pushing forward. So that's how I'm able to reinvent myself every year.
That's incredible. I want to unpack that. And I think that's an amazing mindset to have of, what I'm picking up from you is there's this somehow you've cultivated, and I don't know where it came from, but somehow you've cultivated this gentleness with these certain parts of you who when you don't hit it, it's still okay. And you have space for this parts versus like this condemning judgment of, oh, you're such a piece of shit and I can't believe this didn't happen. I'm fucking worthless. And somehow, again, you've cultivated a softness for the tender parts that when we go into our mind, it didn't work out. And what am I making that mean about myself? And so I just want to acknowledge whatever you've done there. I could really pick up on that.
Thank you, Curtis. Yeah, it's a lot of the work that you've studied as well, right? John D.
Yeah.
Martini. It's the stories we create. We could create the story that we're a failure and we're too stupid. Why did you even try to do that? Or you could look back and say, okay, you didn't hit this C type goal, but look at where you are now compared to when you started that C type goal. You've made some progress. And what I learned from Bob Proctor is that at the top of this goal card, you write a date to when you want to hit the C type goal, but you're guessing at the date. And for 5 years, like I would every year, I would not hit the C type goal and I just change the date, right? You don't change the goal, you
You
change the
keep the
date.
goal changing the date.
That's right.
I
I
think it's
keep
really
the goal.
powerful.
Change the date. Yep, exactly.
Because so much of like, oh, I didn't hit it this year. It's like, well, it must not be, I must be off track. So can you like share one of your C type goals that maybe took you 24 months? Like, what was one of those big ones you first wrote down that you're like, flushed your body with, pins and needles?
So the one that I hit this year, one of the two, was one that I wrote back in 2020. It was, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning a certain amount of money each month through multiple streams of income. It
Mm-hmm.
was such a stretch. It was like 20 times the amount that I was earning each month at that time I said it.
So
So I
huge.
wrote it down. Yeah, huge. I wrote it down at the beginning of January with the date the next January. So January 1st, 2021. And I didn't hit it January 2021. I didn't hit it the next year. I didn't hit it the year after, but I kept getting closer and closer, but not close enough to hit it. But I
Mm-hmm.
kept reading the goal. I kept doing all the things necessary to hit the goal. It just took a lot longer than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, back in June of this year, I hit the goal. Like after reading it for 5 years, taking all the
Wow.
actions, I hit the goal. So once I hit it, I celebrated it. And then I set a new goal to hit, right? It's like, there's like a grateful dissatisfaction. Like I'm so grateful. Like this is amazing. All right,
Yeah.
what's the next goal? So that's
Right.
one that took 5 years to hit, and then this year was when I actually hit it.
Well, first off, congratulations and
Thank you.
well done on the perseverance on that. I'm curious on how are you during that 5 year time? What's one of Ben's ways to enjoy the journey, enjoy the process versus, I finally hit this. I'm fucking good now. What's one of the
So
things for you?
yeah, that's an important question because we could get into the habit of hitting
Always
goals
striving.
and then yeah, like not celebrating and like what's the next one without like actually celebrating the victory
Mhm.
and the journey. So for me, it's having gratitude throughout the journey. One of the things that I do, and I call gratitude vitamin G. I just think it's the most important supplement. I actually have it here on my shirt, vitamin G. I think so. What I do at the end of each night, I lie down in bed and I rewind my day,
Mhm.
and I feel the gratitude for all the things that I did that day. So this conversation with you, Curtis, will be in my gratitude tonight. So when I continue to do this every night, it reminds me to really enjoy the journey and be grateful. And when I look back at what I was doing a year ago compared to now, it's different life. Like just a year ago, it's been so much growth for me. So as long as I'm looking at comparing myself to who I used to be, not to other people or where I want to
Right.
be, but who I used to be, I'll have the gratitude. And I also believe it's important because there's two sides to this. There are people that hit the goal, what's the next one? And they don't celebrate it. They don't have gratitude. They're just like constantly goal setting, which I don't think is great. And then you have the person who hits the goal and they're like, I'm good. They rest on their laurels and like they don't grow anymore.
Mhm.
So there needs to be a healthy balance here. So whenever I hit a goal, I celebrate by, of course, feeling gratitude. And sometimes I get emotional, but I also do something to reward myself, whether it's a trip with Natasha, my fiance, buying myself something nice, but I always do something to reward myself. And then I set the next goal, right? Because I want to continue to also improve and evolve and not rest on my laurels. So I think there's a healthy balance between having kind of the best of both worlds here.
Amazing, amazing on that. And I do see Natasha be able to travel with you quite a bit. That has to be pretty special for you.
So cool. Yeah, it's so awesome. I love it. She kind of picks and chooses where she wants to go. Like I went to like Pensacola recently for a keynote. She's like, nah, I'm not interested. Like Salt Lake City, she's not interested. But like to some of the cool spots, she's like, yeah, I want to go with you. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's special because we turn a trip that's, a work trip because I'm speaking to an extension of having some fun and some play. So it's cool to have her join me on that mission.
How much has that relationship helped you with what you do?
So much, Curtis. I mean, it's just to have somebody support me and celebrate my victories with me and always root for me. Um, it's just so fun to celebrate it with somebody, and she's always rooting for me. She's a big supporter.
Mhm.
I work pretty hard, but I'm not like a workaholic. I'm not somebody who believes in you have to grind until you're dead. I don't have that mentality, so I'm really strategic with how I work. I have my work hours, and then I have my hours where I disconnect from work.
Mhm.
But sometimes there are sprints that I embark on. Like with my latest book, Metabolic Freedom, there was a 4 month sprint before the book came out where I worked my ass off. My C type goal was to hit the New York Times list with this book. So I knew I had to work my ass off for it. I did 65 interviews in 60 days. I traveled, I did all these different things. So there wasn't a lot of time for Natasha. There wasn't a lot of time
Mhm.
for play and vacation. And she understood that. She didn't say like, like, what are you doing? Like, spend more time with me. She knew
Yeah.
I had this goal. It's a short-term goal. It was a sprint, but that's not like my day to day. I spend time with her. I cut off no work after 6 p.m. I hang out with her at night. We spend quality time together. We walk my dog Ziggy together. But there are sprints. Like right now, I'm in another sprint. I have a C-type goal that I want to hit by December 4th. So it's like, full go mode. And she's not complaining, which is
Mhm.
so great because she has her own thing going on and she's building her own business. And I think that also is important because she's not just relying on me for income. She's actually building her own business too. So she's also busy with what she's doing. And I think it's a special dynamic that we have.
I think that's really important, especially for, I mean, for both sexes, right, to hear, regardless of what, gender you're interested in. Like, especially nowadays, having someone who's like, they fully back you 100%. Like, obviously, they want to be treated well and be in a healthy partnership, but having someone who fully backs you in the power of having someone, even especially during the dark times, right? When you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this.
That's right. She was there when I was going through those challenges with nobody showing up to the lecture. Like she was there when I had three people at a lecture. And she would just support me during the challenges, and she supports the success as well. And it's cool to see both sides of it because we didn't start dating when I was already quote unquote successful.
Right.
But we started dating 10 years ago when we knew each other, Curtis,
Yeah.
and I was just like trying to make ends meet and struggling with the bills. And she still supported me back then the same way she supports me now. So yeah, it is special to have that.
Yeah, that's so special because you're seeing a person who's not with you because of the status you've achieved. Not saying if you meet someone at that time, it's just that's just the way it works. But and I think for a man too, it's so hard because you could be, you're a little on, let's say in your world with the health, right? And the guy's unhealthy or he's going through an injury or something to do with his health. And it's like, there could be so much tied to, oh my God, and because I'm going through this, is this person, I just feel terrible. Are they going to leave me? But building that type of dynamic, that type of bond, and just seeing what you've been able to do is really powerful to hear.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I'm grateful for it for sure.
Yeah, that's really special. And I want to kind of circle back to this space of reinvention. And do you find now as a creator of the space that you are having to go in areas maybe that are you didn't want to go in, but you feel like it's a kind of like almost like I need to go into this kind of area to continue to just do what I'm doing?
Yes, yeah. A big part of that is valuing my time
Mm-hmm.
and setting boundaries, like flexing the no muscle. I tend to be somebody who is like a people pleaser,
Yeah.
and I want to say yes to everything. And now I am really getting better at saying no to a lot of things if it's not congruent with the big goals that I'm up to. If it's going to take me
Mhm.
away from that, if it's going to distract me, then it's a 100% no. And I'm getting more comfortable saying that, and I think that's important to be able to say no to things that are an abs. It's either 100% yes or it's 100% no. There's really not any middle ground. Like one of the things, I'll give you an example of what I mean. I'm not doing any podcast interviews right now. I made an exception for you because I
Well,
love you
thank
and I
you.
appreciate you, but everybody else gets to know because I'll give you an example why my YouTube channel is doing so well. It's so great. One solo video on YouTube for me averages like 120,000 views, which is crazy. When I think about going on a podcast, I could spend an hour being interviewed and maybe
Mhm.
reach, let's say that person gets 5,000 downloads or 20,000 downloads. I could spend that hour reaching 5 or 10, 20,000 people, or I could spend that hour reaching 120,000 people, which is the
Yeah.
YouTube. So I made that decision, like, unless it's like a podcast, like a Joe Rogan or a Diary of a CEO or XYZ that's getting millions of downloads, like it
Yeah.
doesn't serve my time. And that was a difficult decision because I still feel bad when I say it. I just naturally feel bad. But then I remind myself, like, I'm not living my life for anybody else but me. And if it's
Yeah.
going to take me away from what we're doing and we've seen such great reach, then I just have to continue to say no to these even some cool opportunities that come up. It's just not congruent with what I'm doing.
It I'm picking up that you've been able to really develop this muscle of listening to yourself. and working through, the hardships of, I was a chronic people pleaser. So, I mean, that was how even, I think I even got into what I do today because of that, what was created during childhood. But I'm just picking up on there's been a muscle you've developed on this aligns, this doesn't align, and you're getting this, it's really clear for you on what is a yes and what is a no.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It's something that I'm getting better at. I wouldn't say I'm great at it, but I'm getting pretty good at it. And the more I feel better about myself at the end of the day, because when I find that I keep agreeing to things that distract me, then I complain in my
Hmm.
head, and I'm not a complainer, and it's not who I want to be. And I just want to do the things that light me up. And what we're doing here on YouTube and our platforms is working. So why should I get distracted and do anything else? So it really just helps me grow even more and reach more people when I just stay in my zone that I see is working for me.
Yeah, and you put out a lot of content, a lot of content. And so I'm curious, you say you have these stops at 6 p.m. It's a lovely walk at night with the dog, it's having dinner, it's no phones, none of that. How does that actually help you create more versus thinking, well, I need to create all day and have just little time for this? How does that work for you?
It's like a rejuvenation for me. Allows me to be more creative. It allows me to get more study time, and with that study time, I get these different ideas for content. It just allows me to be a better partner for Natasha, a better
Uh-huh.
dog owner for my dog Ziggy. When I was doing that sprint for the New York Times list for metabolic freedom, man, I was definitely burning myself out. I would have interviews like 4 to 5 every day, back to back to back to back. Like, I wasn't working out, I wasn't sleeping good. I was tracking my heart rate variability with my Aura Ring, and things were like going in the wrong direction. But I kept telling myself, like, just get through the sprint. You got to get through the sprint.
Huh?
And I actually ended up, so something happened where, and the body, you know this, Curtis, the body will always communicate to you through symptoms. And
Yeah.
if you don't pay attention to those symptoms, it'll show you something even more severe. So
Uh-huh.
for me, it was about 3 weeks before the book launched. I was doing this 3-day online fat loss challenge with the goal of getting thousands of people on this 3-day Zoom and then selling them or having them buy pre-order Metabolic Freedom. So I had 1,000 people sign up for this challenge, which is super cool. And I'm prepping for it all weekend. I'm not rejuvenating. I'm not taking breaks. There's no cutoff times for me. It was like all day. And an hour before I was about to go live, thousands of people are waiting for me to go live on this first session. I start experiencing heart palpitations, chest palpitations, and shortness of breath.
Wow.
And I'm like, I've never experienced this before. I didn't know what it was. Is it a panic attack? I've never had a panic attack. I'm going to fight through. There's thousands of people waiting on here. And then I'm going through the presentation, explaining it to my team member, Alina. And I just couldn't even explain the slides to her. And I'm like, I need to go outside for a few seconds. I went outside, I got sunshine, went back inside, tried to go through it again. I just couldn't even speak. It was like shortness of breath. And I said, Alina, I don't think I could do this session. You're gonna have to do the slides for me, and I think I got to go to the urgent care. So she did the live stream. I went into the room and told Natasha. Like, Natasha knew something was wrong as soon as I walked in because I was like ghostly pale, and she drove me to the urgent care, and they did an EKG, they did blood work, they did all this test, blood pressure, and my heart was fine. I was having a panic attack. I was just, there was so much. I didn't have any breaks, any rejuvenation. My body was
Mhm.
like, you're not paying attention to the symptoms. I'm going to show you a panic attack. And I never had a panic attack in my
Wow.
life. So that showed me something. It showed me that I got to pay more attention to my body. I got to be consistent with these little breaks and rejuvenation. And if I don't, I'll go through something similar. I don't want to go through that. It was a pretty weird feeling. So yeah, that was a lesson learned.
Wow. That sounds quite intense, especially for
Was
someone in your space, right? Who's, so dialed in and so knows so much with health as well.
exactly. Yeah. And you know
Yeah.
what's interesting? When I was at the urgent care, the doctor prescribed beta blockers to me, medication. I'm like, why are you prescribing? Like, my heart's fine. EKG blood work is like, oh, just as like a precautionary thing. I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to take your medication. It's so stupid. They just want to prescribe medication. I
Yeah.
just needed to rest. I was not paying attention to my body. So thankfully, I haven't had a panic attack since. I've been taking breaks and rest. And as long as I do that, I feel good about myself.
Good, man. Good to hear you're all right and dialed in. But love to just kind of have you share something that would be just really helpful for, the new audience we have here on Ben's formula. And I know we've poked at it throughout the show, but for that someone who's, like, hey, I want to go to that sea goal. I want to reinvent myself. I need to rewrite this kind of series all about how do you rebrand yourself in the dark night and find that hope. And so I would love to just for you to share, a few tips on that.
I would sit down in a quiet room, turn off your phone, turn off the television by yourself, and just allow yourself to dream. Think about that dream life, the income, the relationships, the career, your health. Let yourself dream and just write down what comes to mind. You're going to have thoughts of, who are you to think you can do this? You're not smart enough. Where's the money going to come from? Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Just let that
Mhm.
pass. Just write down what you want, your desire. Once you have that written down, then what you want to do is write it down on a goal card, starting with I'm so happy and grateful. Now that, and then you write down that dream in present tense. Once you have it on a goal card could just be an index card. Once you have it, you want to read that every single day, especially in the morning where the subconscious mind is most impressionable, but read
Mhm.
it every single day. And you're not going to believe that you can do it, probably, because it's going to be such a stretch. You're not going to know how to do it, which is fine. That's why it's a C type goal, but you just need to read it every single day. And by day 30 of doing this, you're going to start to feel, going to start to believe you can do it. And you're going to start to feel like, actually, I could start figuring out how to do this. So the C type goal becomes a B type goal where you start to piece the puzzles together and then you can realize you can do it. So it sounds kind of woo woo to some people. It's easy to not do because it sounds so easy to do, right? Some of those
Mhm.
easy things that, like, why it doesn't sound like it's going to do anything for me. But what Bob Proctor used to always say is, if your way is not working, why don't you try mine? Why don't you do it for 30 days
Mhm.
and then see what happens for you? So that's what I would tell your audience. If your way is not working, why don't you try this method? Do it for 30 and
Mhm.
let's see what happens for you.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And lastly, Ben, where could these individuals find you? Where could everyone find you at?
My website is probably the best place. It's benazadi.com. You could find my socials on there. The book Metabolic Freedom is on there, and everything I have to offer is on benazadi.com.
Amazing. Well, Ben, I appreciate you so much. And I, again, thank you for allowing me to interview you and be one of the only ones right now who get to bring you on a podcast. And there's no one better who I could have thought to have on as the first episode, as you've definitely inspired me through your journey, man, of where you've gone and just that steady, you've just been like a stallion on your path. And to see the fields continue to open up and the new fields that you embark on are very inspiring. So for anyone listening to this, like, just know from where Ben went to, I've actually got to witness this. It's not just some guy met on the internet who's, I've seen the journey for 11 years with him. So I just want to say thank you for coming on and being the first guest on the House of Sunday.
I appreciate those words, and I am honored to be the first guest on the House of Sunday. You know, you have made a huge difference in my life, Curtis. You've done a lot of clearing for me. You know, a lot of Dr. John D. Martini's work you've done on me, and you've been a huge supporter and a huge influence on my life as well. I cherish all the days we had together here back in Miami when you used to live here, but you've done a lot of great things for me. And I appreciate that because you've been a huge part of the journey. So thank you. And I also appreciate you. And I'm excited for what you're going to create on this podcast. And those listening, like, keep showing up because Curtis is going to bring some amazing guests, obviously. But Curtis's wisdom is so valuable. Like, lean into it, keep listening to his podcast. And thank you, Curtis. I'm honored to be the first guest on your show.
Brother, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Appreciate you.